In July, we will have our 3rd year anniversary of the magazine, and this February will be 3 years from the inception of the idea. In that time frame, we've raised $40,000 for special needs kids. We just raised $20,000 at our gala for families locally dealing with cancer. And last year, we hosted a drug symposium right here about a year ago that had 330 people at it, and here we are tonight hosting a symposium on bullying. So something that started with a random idea in a meeting back in February of 2016, here we are approaching our 3-year anniversary, having raised some funds and also hosting these events, and it wouldn't be possible without everyone that works with us on a volunteer basis consistently. And I'm going to point out some of those people here tonight. It's all about making an opportunity to make a difference. We try to make a difference and not noise. I think we all hear enough noise in the world and we need less of it. I'd like to recognize our team here tonight. In the back is Jessica Urbanik, who's taking video footage right now, and Tanya Rockwell. These two are 2 members of our team that plan a lot of these events and put such special time into it and nice touches to everything we do. Wouldn't be possible without them. Jess Marazza and Tony Slazak, who are my business partners, help fund most of what we do. They're here tonight. Bree and Amanda, who you registered with out front, work on things tirelessly every day for both the Goal and Second Half Coach. And Kate Lloyd is here tonight, who's the editor of our magazine, who has also brought some students that are going to speak with us here tonight. So I want to make sure we recognize all them and thank them for all their hard work. I want to thank our sponsors here tonight. Without them, they wouldn't be, this wouldn't be possible. Second Half Coach Wealth Management, Chad Ammon from the Westmoreland County Chamber of Commerce, always very supportive of everything done in the community, is here tonight. Also, Matthew and Lindsay Smizzy of Smizzy Law was a sponsor of tonight's event. We want to thank them as well. We want to recognize the contributors as well as our speakers here tonight. You know, these are people who every single day, like here we are, just me, you know, I'm a financial planner, and one day, one night, I'm doing something for bullying. But the speakers here tonight are doing something on these issues every single day. Every single day, they are in the trenches, making a difference in people's lives who are dealing with this issue. And they're the real champions of this. All right, they're the reason we can be here tonight and hopefully educate some people on that. And I thank all of you for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here tonight. I wanted to mention that next year's event will be at another one. We'll be having this again next year, right after Election Day and before Thanksgiving. You know, leading up to Election Day, you always hear a lot of noise and things that are negative. We want to wait till after the Election Day to have this event because we think these are unifying issues. These are issues that regardless of where you stand on Election Day, after that day we stand united on these issues, whether it's drugs, or bullying. It doesn't matter whether you're black, white, you know, whatever your religion is, male, female, these are issues that affect you or could affect you, and we want to make sure that we unify behind them and get behind them. Next year we'll be having an event, and our topic will be human trafficking. So we are going to continue to target these issues that are tough issues that aren't getting talked about a lot in the media or by our leaders, often because they're not divisive issues. The unifying issues don't get talked enough about. It's the divisive ones that get all the attention. And we're trying to bring light and attention to the issues that we can get behind and can be united behind and make a difference with. So make sure you look out for that. You know, all of us here tonight are here as neighbors, friends, brothers, sisters, because these issues touch our heart. And to moderate tonight's event, I couldn't think of someone else that would do a better job. This person is one of my favorite people. Someone who lights up a room with her personality and smile, but lights up your heart with her spirit of goodness. I could spend a lot of time reading all her professional awards and accolades. While those things may be impressive, it's her heart that makes her special. And I'm truly proud to have her writing for Goal, appreciate her willingness to be here tonight. I want to welcome my friend to the stage, who you'd much rather hear from than me, Wendy Bell.
Hi, everybody. All right. Okay, so I was thinking about this. How many of you have been bullied? Almost universal. right? It's like this unfortunate rite of passage in life. And for a lot of people, it's not just a child or adolescent thing. I was doing a little research. Madonna, Rihanna, Michael Phelps, Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, Robert Pattinson. I mean, the list of celebrities who have gone on to do amazing things after being bullied as children is outlandish. It's almost as like, if you can suffer through and come out the darkness and see the light on the other side, the possibilities for you are endless. And so many people who are celebrities or politicians or global leaders all have stories about what they've gone through. I wasn't necessarily bullied, but I stood up for people who were bullied and then became bullied because of that. It's tragic. And the people you're going to hear from tonight have dedicated their lives, their professional careers, to the study of, the prevention of, and the help for those who are bullied. So the takeaway here at the end of all this, our hope for you is hope. It's hope and it's help, because you can survive this. And the young people you're going to hear are really tremendous. They want to share stories with you, and they want you to share their stories with others. So what we're going to do, it's kind of a cool setting. We're going to have 3 panelists at a time, 3 rounds. We're going to have the first 3 come up here. After they kind of give you what they do and their experiences, we're going to move over to this sort of like lounge setting. And we're going to have kind of a Q&A, and you're also invited to think of and share any questions you might have. So the first 3 that we'd like to have come up are these 3 right in front here. So I'd like to welcome, if you would come up and join me behind me, Dr. Emily Schweitzer, Beth Babiak, and Ted Hoover, all 3 of whom have intimate knowledge of and study and passion for really the prevention of this serious epidemic in our society. I think we're going to start with Dr. Emily, and why don't you come on up here, give everybody out there a little synopsis of who you are, and take it away. I'll come over here.
Sure. Thank you. It's a privilege to be here tonight speaking with you on such an important issue, an issue that's really dear to my heart, dear to my research, dear to my life. I'm a professor of sociology, social deviance at California University of Pennsylvania and director of the Liberal Studies program. This is going on my 19th year there. And prior to that, I worked as an assistant principal in Monongalia County Schools, as a school psychologist, as a family therapist, and in 12 years, I think I'm going to be ready to retire. So we'll see. But it is a privilege to be here with you tonight. What I'm going to talk to you about is what bullying actually is, where it comes from, and why it happens. And we use this term bullying, but we don't often understand that it is aggression. And aggression has many different facets to it, so many of which I want to talk to you about tonight, and I'll do my best to do it in 10 minutes. But if you look at a violence continuum, when you look at where bullying falls and where it can lead to, you can see why this is such a pertinent, relevant, and devastating area. It may start off small, and if not rehabilitated, if not addressed, if not changed, it can end up on any of these higher level scales all the way to the top, leading with murder and suicide. And as you begin, in my profession, begin to look at a number of bullies who have ended up in incarceration, in mental institutions, in probation agencies, oftentimes they were the ones who were initially bullied and then became the bullies themselves as well. Sort of a coping mechanism. So when we look at social interactions in general, you and I talking, there's 2 things that impacts us. How important goals are for you and how important you perceive a relationship to be. Now if you think about that quickly for 20 seconds or so, that's going to explain where bullies originate at. How important is it for them to win? How important is it for them to be the center of attention? How important is it for them to put someone else down so that they can begin to feel good about themselves? And then how important do they perceive a relationship to be? Who do bullies tend to pick on? Those whose relationships they don't value, those who they think are weaker than them, those who they want to put down. They don't tend to pick on the other king bully, at least not initially, unless they can find a weakness. So this guides not only all personal interactions, but especially those interactions that we have with bullies. Now, here comes the crux of the matter. Where does aggression begin? When we talk about bullying, we think of behaviors. We need to stop thinking about behaviors first and start thinking about cognitions. Because cognitions are where bullying begins. Our thought processes, their thought processes, their feelings, their interpretations. And this will make more sense as I go on. Then their behaviors arise from their thought processes, and then they are reinforced by the social interactions that they have with others. So if you take a situation where someone, let's say, thinks someone else is talking about them. I'll give you an example of a bus situation from being a former assistant principal. There's a student who's on a bus, and let's just say it's he, because overwhelmingly 98% of our bullies tend to be males, male aggressors, the behavioral acts. He's looking out a window. He's seeing other students who are standing, waiting, and going into school, and he sees them looking back and forth at him through the window and whispering. What does he think about that situation? Are they talking about me? Who are they talking about me? What right do they have talking about me? Boy, when I get off this bus, guess what I'm going to do? Gets off the bus. What does he do then? Based on his cognitions. I'm going to go over and confront them. I'm going to go over and call them a name. I'm going to retaliate. And this may all be fictional, but it's in that individual's thought processes. As a result, whatever the behavior is that the bully does, confronts them, looks at them, sneers at them, hits them, is based upon that perception that he believes they hold. Then those individuals maybe run, hide, duck, maybe they fight back. But it's based then again on a circular reaction of all of this bullying reinforces the initial cognitions. People don't like me. People are going to retaliate against me. People aren't going to understand me. People are going to judge me. So it becomes this big, vicious cycle where it starts with interpretations. It leads to interpersonal interactions. It's then fulfilled by psychosocial or social interactions that one has, and it begins evaluated. And the cycle just keeps repeating itself. So we can't just stop where the behavior is, stop doing that, don't do that to someone. We have to change their initial thought processes early on, and if I would lie to you if I would say that's easy, because that's not easy. It has to begin by changing interpersonal perceptions, experiences, and then, obviously, behaviors. So, we look at different types of aggression. This becomes important when we look at bullies. Aggression is intentional. It's never accidental. If it was accidental, we would call it an accident, but we call it aggression because it's intentional. It's either formed or aimed to cause physical or psychological pain. There's a couple different types, and this is important when identifying a bully. Hostile are feelings of anger, and you're aimed at inflicting harm or pain or injury to someone else. Instrumental aggression is a goal. The goal is not pain. Pain is the lead way to the goal. So when you think of sports, just think in your mind for a minute. What would be an example of hostile aggression? What would be an example of instrumental aggression? And this will make much more sense to you when you think about it. What do we all go to hockey games to see?
Fights.
Fights. What? Good point. A for the class star there. You go to hockey games to see fights. That's hostile aggression. It's just simply aimed at causing pain. Instrumental aggression would be what? Do you think? What do you think? Something some of you gave up tonight to be here. Football. Okay? You tackle someone. Whole goal isn't to, I'm going to go up there and sack them and, really inflict pain. The goal is to what? Stop them from scoring, proceeding. Okay? So same thing with bullies. Same type of aggression. You have to decide, are they out to hurt someone or is there another means to the end? And you're going to be surprised at who figures out the means to the end more than the other. Relational aggression is damaging peer relationships, gossip, fancy name for gossip. Overt aggression is what you can see, the hitting, the punching, predominantly males. Covert aggression, predominantly females, is what you cannot see. And all of you that are smiling right back at me now that are females, you know this is true. And males are smiling more and saying, yeah, we know this is more true. But females, think about it. Those of you that are older, outside of high school, you still remember that one girl, don't you? Who gave you the problems in high school? Guys, you don't remember that first fight you had, did you? Because 10 minutes after you had that fight, what'd you do? You went outside and played again. Okay, females handle aggression a little bit differently. Females handle aggression instrumentally. Males handle aggression and bullying hostilely. Okay? So, just a real quick cover up to all of this. Aggression, more normal circumstances are males. Females are equal to males when they're provoked. They can be just as bullying and downright mean, just as males can, if they are provoked. Males, more overt aggression. Females, more covert aggression. Situations that cause aggression, just to give you a quick overview, are pain, heat, humidity, foul odors, confined personal space, and riots. Riots often occur more during hot temperatures. That's true. It's not cause and effect, but it's correlational. This is particularly important for people designing school systems. Think about all of the situations where a room is overheated, not air conditioned. Think about how the humidity is increasing in a room. Think about if the behavior disordered or emotional support classroom is next to the garbage pickup or the cafeteria. Children who have poor coping skills placed in these situations, they're going to be magnified just because of the type of physical space that they're in. Couple other pointers: frustration aggression theory, the perception that you are being prevented from attaining a goal. The greater the closeness of the goal, the more the increase in aggression. Think of yourself in a shopping line. Someone cuts in front of you, you're in the 10 and under. Okay, who can handle it? All right, that's frustration aggression. Think about it in the school system. When students do this perhaps to one another. They're not as skilled as you and I to count to 10 and say, I'm not going to raise my blood pressure today. I'm just going to let it go. But those are situations that are real. Relative deprivation, you're getting more than me. I think you're getting more than me. I don't know it, but I think it. And there's that cognition again. Provocation and reciprocation. If you're insulted, you become more aggressive. If you perceive an act as unintentional, then there's no aggression. Think about back in high school, middle school situations. Someone, you swear, tripped you. You believe it. You're more likely to aggress. You didn't perceive it as an accident. How many times have you gotten bumped into today? Oh, I'm sorry. You can handle it. But if you perceive it as an aggressive act, you're more likely yourself to become aggressive. So what do? There's a few things that can be done in a classroom, and probably we'll talk about this more in Q&A, but involve activities that have respect, responsiveness, creativity, socialization, resourcefulness, all thinking things. All things that make you change your perceptions and consider the perceptions of others. They aren't necessarily behaviors, but they make you look at yourself as well as looking at others to change your ideas and your perceptions. And what's our goal? To transition from, to, and back again. Look at yourself, look at the perspective of another, and then begin to look at the community as a larger role in what you can do to invoke change. Okay? Did you get the quick 10 minutes? Thank you very much.
All right, now I would like to ask Ted Hoover to come on up here. Now, Ted, he is here representing Ursad, the nation's second oldest behavioral health center, working with the LGBT and the HIV/AIDS community. This is serious. They've been in our community for 45 years. And I'm very happy that you're here joining us. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. It's great to be here tonight, and I want to thank the people who put this great event together. We are 45 years old, and we say we're treating our community from cradle to grave. In the last, I'd say, 10 years, we've really started focusing on systems changes. And to that end, we partnered with Duquesne University's a graduate school of public health about 5 years ago to do a school climate survey in Pittsburgh public school system. And we interviewed teachers and faculty, parents, and also LGBT kids. And acronyms are always dangerous, so just so that we're clear, we're talking about lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender kids. That's what we mean when we say LGBT. So we did a survey of people in the public schools, the Pittsburgh public school system, and there were some surprising results, and I want to share some of that with you tonight because I think that it's pertinent to what we're talking about. And while these numbers that we're going to look at are specific to Pittsburgh public schools, I think that we can agree that they are shared out here in Westmoreland County, in Greene County, in Scranton, in Erie, because we do see these figures mirrored across the country. So that's Blackburn, and that's not me. Okay, there we go. You're going to have to go backwards. So the first one was they asked students. You can see. No, that's not. Okay. So the students. They asked students how often do the students think that LGBT kids are being bullied compared to the overall student population? And you'll see almost 50% of the kids said more or much more. So the LGBT kids are saying 50% of the LGBT kids in that school are being bullied more than the non-LGBT kids. They asked the same question of teachers at the schools, and that's the teachers' response. And they're saying only 20% is more or much more. Now, that doesn't necessarily surprise me. You know, bullying has totally moved online, so how's the teacher even going to know it? And also, students will, at least the kids I know, will only involve a grown-up as a last resort. That's the last person that a student's going to go to. So it doesn't surprise me that the teachers are seeing something different than the students, but what does fascinate me about these two slides is we're talking about the same physical space, but there are two separate realities. This is the reality regarding bullying for teachers, but that's the reality for students regarding bullying. So Justin, we get a lot of questions from faculty and admin about this. Just because you're not seeing it doesn't mean that it's not happening. It is happening, but you're just not seeing it. But like I said, these two things don't surprise me. It's this one that surprises me. They asked teachers, now these are teachers who are responding to this, how often do students hear offensive terms like fag, queer, homo, gay from other students, and that's the dark purple, and how often do they hear it from teachers? And that's the light purple. Now you would hope that the light purple never would be 100%, but we're not seeing that. We're seeing it again and again that kids are hearing it from teachers. Sometimes it's explicit, but sometimes that it's not. You would never hear, for instance, a teacher make fun of a kid in a wheelchair, but you might hear a teacher refer to a kid as a sissy. These are kind of implicit messages we're giving to kids, and we're giving to bullying kids who say, hey, it's okay. It's okay to do what you want because these people are less than, so you don't have to worry about that. And that's why we're seeing the bullying numbers that we do see. One of the reasons we're seeing the bullying numbers for LGBT kids that we do see. We'll talk more about that later in our little lounge pit area here. And that's it for me.
All right, now I would like to invite up to the stage Beth Babiak. Now, Beth works at the Blackburn Center, which advocates for victims of all sorts of crime, and one of the neatest things that they do is something called Walk a Mile in Her Shoes, where they have men put on high heels. You said red?
Red.
Red.
Gotta be red.
You wouldn't want to wear high heeled shoes and walk around a mile and see what it's like. Just a small example of we have no idea what each other feels like, lives like, goes through, and whatnot. So welcome and take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep. Okay. we'll actually go here. So again, I'm Beth Babiak. I work at the Blackburn Center. I'm the Education and Outreach Program Manager. So I run the department that has the education specialists that go into the schools with all types of programming, some of it the anti-bullying message, but also good touch, bad touch messaging, healthy relationships, unhealthy relationships, all of those kinds of things. Obviously, we do a lot of community outreach as well, so any groups, speaking to any group as well, so I coordinate all of that. And I do events like this myself, as well as have some of the other staff doing that as well. So, plus I do all the training within the department, or within the agency. So as Wendy mentioned, Blackburn Center, hopefully you've heard of it. We are in a lot of the school districts, so if you have students that have gone through, you might have heard of us. But we do, what most of the community knows about us is that we provide services to primarily, historically, victims of and survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. But that has broadened out over the years, and as was shown earlier on that continuum of violence and where bullying fits in on that continuum of violence, we're seeing the people that we deal with have suffered from the effects of bullying, and it really does relate directly back to our mission. So that's where that all ties in. So the services we provide are services that would be available to victims and survivors of bullying and harassment of all ages. As Wendy also mentioned, bullying affects all races, all ages. It just affects everyone. Everybody has either been bullied or known somebody that's been bullied. So when I speak, I always try to point out, even though people know our services and the services we're providing for clients, the other part of our mission is the second, or actually the first piece now as we've rewritten it, and that is to change the climate, to change the community, to change the attitudes of, as Ted said, of considering people other or less than, and having that then make it okay to treat them differently or to treat them poorly. So that is a primary focus of our work as well, eliminating those root causes of violence in our communities and our home. So basically, we're trying to work ourselves out of a job. So we'll see. Traditionally, I guess providing the services is helpful, and that's traditionally where the large part of the focus has been, but that's been changing, like I said. But eliminating the conditions and the attitudes that lead to bullying behaviors would lead to a much healthier, happier community. So that's where their focus is changing to. So we have our traditional programs where we talk about recognizing bullying behaviors, how to react safely to those behaviors, both as a victim reacting to those behaviors, but also as a bystander reacting to those behaviors. And that's an important piece of knowledge to have out there. But we're putting more and more emphasis on primary prevention, which is changing attitudes, preventing those bullying behaviors from even developing. Not an easy job, admittedly. So, a complex job, a many-faceted job, but what the researchers are telling us reinforces what we already know. There are no simple solutions to ending bullying, but there are some promising solutions and some promising approaches. And it's mainly involving a holistic approach, one that includes the entire community, not just the school community, because as we've said, bullying affects everyone. So it includes the school community, certainly the students, the families, administrators, all types of staff. But people learn things, and they learn attitudes, and they learn behaviors from many facets of their lives, not just in educational settings. So the goal of the holistic approach is to develop an overall culture of respect throughout the community, an expectation that people will treat each other with kindness and take a moment to think about a situation from another person's perspective. So the lessons that help build a person's self-esteem, help build their character, help them develop empathy, help them develop conflict management skills, all of those lessons that are learned but can be learned both formally but are also learned informally, that's all part of this holistic approach. And the term that's now being used around these kinds of lessons and this kind of approach is the social emotional learning, or SEL. So that's part of the approach. Another part of this holistic approach is to keep lines of communication open, to have people talking to each other. For adults that are involved in students' lives, encouraging students and children to do what they love, to do what they're good at, to encourage everybody to do that, to model kindness, to model respect. All of that is part of this holistic approach. And again, talking about bullying behaviors and encouraging people to help if they're a bystander in that situation, when they know someone's in that situation, and teaching them how to do that appropriately, that's a piece of the solution as well. But what researchers have also learned, and what most parents already know, is we don't want to dwell on a negative behavior. We don't want to emphasize a negative behavior or give too much attention to it, because that type of reinforcement sometimes causes that behavior to continue. So we want to emphasize and reinforce the positive behaviors, acts of kindness, acts of respect, and empathy. You'll notice, and I'm just going to stick that up there so you can see some of the services we provide for later discussion. I've tried to speak as generically as possible, referring to bullying affecting people in general. Bullying and harassment occurs in many environments and at all ages, and there are programs and resources to help with all of those different situations. We have some of those programs, but there are certainly other programs out there as well. We have programs on bullying and harassment for adults and children. We have programs specifically on sexual harassment, which is again on that continuum as bullying continues. So we have programs on sexual harassment for adults and children. Our primary prevention programs for the children in the schools include lessons on accepting differences, general differences among people, but also gender and racial differences. The lessons, we also have lessons on helping the children develop empathy. We use a mixture of stories and videos. So if you've heard of some of the stories, like Egbert the slightly cracked egg, some things that really engage the younger children. So videos, activities, and we try to be as interactive as possible and have that, and do scenarios and skill building so they really learn how to change their lives and approach things differently with that different perspective. But most importantly, we're all part of the solution to end bullying. We all have a part to play in initiating discussions and modeling behaviors that are going to help develop a kinder and more respectful community. And that's it.
Thank you. I'm going to have you come on over here. All right, it's fun as it is. All right, so Emily, I'm going to have you sit there, Beth to my left, Ted to the back.
You take this, because you're up first.
Oh.
So come on over, have a seat in this stool. You know, what I'm hearing here is, this begins at home. As much as we want to talk about the effects of bullying in school per se, how much of this behavior, though, is either learned at home or permitted at home? And you can take the microphone and start first, especially in the community with which you deal.
I would say one of the more encouraging things we're seeing in this field is not just focusing on the bullied, but also looking at the bully and beginning to question, well, why is that kid doing it? What is the home of that child like? And that's kind of new in this field, and that's kind of gratifying because that's what's going to solve the problem. Now, specifically for my population, then you have to pull back and what kind of messages are we sending societally? about this community, and I think especially too right now with transgender youth. Almost 50% of the calls we get at my agency now are from transgender kids or parents of trans kids who are scared to death what's happening, and turning on the news and hearing just horrible, horrible things about protections being rolled back, taken away. And these kids feel terrified to begin with, and then they go to school, and some kid who's seeing these same things feels, oh, okay, well, I need to pick on somebody, and you're the weakest person in this room. So that's you're who I'm going to pick on. So it is about taking a holistic approach and seeing it's not just one kid versus another kid. There's all this other stuff, this implicit stuff behind it all.
And Emily, I love your focus because you do look at the bully, at the behavior inside. Is there any blueprint? Is there any like warning flags? I mean, I have children at home, and we were just out getting haircuts, and there was a very flamboyant man getting his haircut. And he got up, and he was almost magical in how he moved, and he had this ridiculously expensive Louis Vuitton handbag. I almost knifed him for it. And he said, you know, hello, gorgeous, and blah, blah, blah. And he left. And after my son got his haircut, he said to me, he said, Mom, was that man gay? And I said, absolutely. And I said, did you see how beautiful his haircut was? And he said, yes, he was so friendly. And I said, yes, and I don't want you to identify him. Like the first thing is he's gay, like the first thing is you're black. It's a hard thing to teach our children. Don't you agree?
Yeah, it's very hard. As human beings, we all are accustomed to saying what's natural, identifying what we see, not taking the second opportunity to think about what we're saying or to think about different behaviors. And I always give the example of, you know, you're in a restaurant and you get waited on by a waitress who perhaps is not the nicest waitress. And what do we automatically do? Is we categorize she or he, waiter, waitress. And we say, they are this or they are that, or this is snooty and this isn't, and I'm not going to tip them. And we don't take that second opportunity to say, what if something happened a minute before she waited on you? And as human nature, we don't do that. That is learned behavior to take that second step back, what you did with your son. To take that second thought of what this could be rather than what you're just automatically programmed, biologically conditioned to notice and to see. And categorization is natural. And that's what I tell people is the hardest thing about bullying. It's natural. At age 8 to 10, we begin to categorize. You know, this is good, this is bad, this is cool, this is not, this is pretty, this is not pretty. You know, this is red, this is black, whatever it is. And that's natural intelligence. How you form or frame that natural intelligence comes from the parenting, the upbringing, the teaching, as you pointed out too, with teachers even being held accountable for what they're saying. So I guess what I hope you take away from this is it is a natural process, but it has to be fine-tuned by someone who knows better.
And if you can hand it over here, the whole walk a mile in her shoes idea is brilliant because it forces us to step outside that judgment zone and identify, I know nothing about you. So how could I possibly formulate an opinion about you unless I give you an opportunity, right? And that's what we need to teach, I think, our children from the beginning. Tell me about the walk a mile idea and what the whole purpose of that is.
Okay, well, the Walk a Mile idea is, and it's a national concept, and different organizations do it at different times of the year and everything. We do ours in April. But the issues that we deal with, a lot of them are gender-based and gender-related, so a lot of domestic violence, a lot of sexual assault. And it all revolves around those issues being considered generally female issues or women's issues. And so this is to have a very visual event to show men walking around in the red high-heeled shoes saying this is a men's issue. You know, we're taking on another perspective, we're looking at it for another ways. These issues are our issues, and we all want our community to be safe.
And at some point, we all hope that in true harmony, we can look at each other and embrace the differences and love them. Isn't that the utopia we're all hoping for, right? Because if everybody's like you, if everybody's like me, it's like,
Yeah, it's
right?
a boring world.
Right. And if I can ask you, Ted, another question. So I, as an outsider, feel as though there have been tremendous strides in LGBT awareness, in people talking about it. I might be on a random island and I'm wrong, but I can't fathom particularly those middle school years that are absolutely so dreadful anyway, and then putting into it a sexual orientation that isn't immediately accepted by everybody. What are the unique challenges there?
I think, we have the phrase, it gets better. And I think for adults, as an adult, when I can choose my friends, when I can choose my family, when I can choose my environment,
Right.
It has gotten better for LGBT people. That's very true. But we know, for instance, there's a group called GLSEN, which is the Gay, Straight, Lesbian Education Network. Their entire reason for being is safe schools K through 12. They're a national group and they commission studies and research. They have been doing since 1992 something called the School Climate Survey, where they interview LGBT kids across the country and ask them their daily experiences in school. The bullying numbers for LGBT kids have not gone down at all since 1992.
That's so disturbing.
Yes, it is very disturbing. And in 2014, the United States Department of Health and Human Services released a report that said that 26% of LGBT kids are kicked out of their house when they come out to their families. That's 1 in 4 kids, and that's 2014. That's not a generation ago. It's last Tuesday. Kind of in connection with that, the Center for Disease Control released a report that's saying 6% of non-LGBT kids will attempt suicide, but 26% of LGBT teens will. And I know there's no direct correlation, but it always strikes me with those two numbers, that 1 in 4 gay kids are kicked out of the house when they come out, and 1 in 4 gay kids will attempt suicide. So these are messages. We are giving something, maybe not as explicit as it used to be, but we are giving messages to these kids saying, you know what, we'd be better off if you weren't around.
So my interpretation of things is off because it's not any easier.
No, it's not.
Got it. How do I have sons. Now, I'm not going to say that boys own the bullying behaviors, because I knew plenty of girls who were as nasty as the day is long, and they can be venomous. Is there a trait? Is there something that we can see early on in a child? Are there specific behaviors or characteristics of somebody who's going to grow up and be malignant to others?
You know, it's a fine line, and it's really a good question, because bullies can also, on the other flip side of the coin, be leaders. And depending upon their experiences, they embody some of the same characteristics. You know, and that's where I put up on that one first screen, you know, how important the relationship is to you and how important the goal is to you. Do you want to always, do you categorize situations, interpersonal interactions as win or lose? And if you are categorizing them as win or lose, then you're more likely to be that bully. I have to win. If I don't win, that's it. And then the leader will take it differently. They'll look at more of the social variables and the relationships that they create and what they learn about themselves, where the bully, it's all or nothing.
As parents, is there a way to reel that in? Because my intention would be, I'm sorry, can I say that? Right? You just want to be like, what are you doing? But as a parent, is there a corrective way, like a constructive way to be like, yo, we don't do that?
It's a balance. It's a balance between being and teaching competitiveness, but at the same time teaching responsibility and ownership for how you present yourself. The good rules of parenting, you know, in a competitive situation, as much as possible, talking about
Yeah.
situations, letting them hear you.
It's okay to lose. Newsflash.
Right.
Life doesn't work out the way you want. I know. Right? It's like stuff happens. You move on, right? All right, and back over to you. If you could I want people to be able to go out, and if they know somebody or there's somebody in their family who's really struggling, I want them to know what kind of services, what kind of help, what kind of hope is out there, particularly through your center.
Oh, okay. So our center has a 24-hour hotline. If you stop over at the table at the end of the evening, we have business-sized hotline cards. Anybody can call that hotline number. It doesn't have to be an emergency, egregious situation. You can call to talk around bullying as well as any of the violent situations that we're dealing with. Safety is the first priority. Brainstorm how to stay safe in this situation, and then talk about some other alternatives that might be possible. Reporting situations. What's the process for possibly reporting it? What we do is talk through options and give people different options and help them try to decide which
Saying
is the
they're not
best
alone.
option. Yeah.
You're not alone.
We're here to support you. We'll talk you through pros and cons. So we have that hotline 24/7. We have counseling services. All of our services are free at no cost to our clients. Very, very confidential. So, we have counseling, face-to-face counseling. We have, if it gets to the point where it's a criminal level, we have advocates that support people through the criminal system. Again, just to be there and to they're not lawyers, but just this is what the process is going to be, and we're here to support you through the process.
Great.
So there's all of that. We also have expertise in the Title IX that you hear about in the colleges at the university level related to reporting, especially of sexual violence. That applies K-12 as well. So we have experts with expertise with helping the schools implement those, best practice reporting policies, and also helping, parents and students realize what their rights are and what they can, and how they can report and how it should be handled. So all of that expertise is available.
The number one thing, I'm pointing at you and making you uncomfortable. Is that bullying? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm going
The number one thing that you would like to see happen in schools to assist particularly the LGBTQ community, if you could wave a magic wand, what would make a difference?
That, education of faculty and staff. We just want to know that you thought we might show up. That at some point you consider, well, what happens if we get a gay kid coming through here? Rather than, because too often LGBT kids are put in the position of having to educate the adults in their life. And speaking as a parent, you never want the kid to know more than you do. Believe me, it's a dangerous place to be. Training, education, it's interesting. I've been in this job almost 10 years now. And way back then, when I would contact schools, they would say to me, well, we don't have any gay kids.
Right.
I'm like, is your school in your basement? And then we would go and do training, and then after the training, we'd hear from them in 5 months. It's so funny, since you've come out and done this training, suddenly we're seeing all these gay kids. That we are there. And if you don't know that we're there, there's a reason that we're not out to you.
Right.
There is a reason. So just assuming that we're there and what you can do, just to help these kids feel supported.
Right.
That's really the issue.
I want to thank the three of you. Thank you very much. Go ahead. There you go. Perfect. Why don't you go ahead and have a seat, and we're going to go on to phase 2. Wow, so much that you don't think about. It's so nice to know that we have them on our side, right? I think the next phase here is, to me, particularly sobering, because I want to bring up, don't you love my cheat sheet? What? I want to bring up Sheila Jordan and Tim Hamill. If you two would come on up and assume the position. I think one of the hardest things is to know that your child is being bullied. Because I'm not so sure. You can just stand up here with me, sweetheart. Good, because I didn't have a story. Okay, good. I think that there's an impotence with knowing that your child is being bullied and that you can't do anything to stop it. And I'd love for you to come here and share your story because it's particularly heartfelt. And I know you're going to talk to the parent and all of us. So take it away.
Thank you. I'm gonna put this down a little bit because I'm gonna have pictures taken and I don't wanna look like I have a mustache. I work too hard at keeping it at bay. So, Jessica was kind enough to give me instructions on how to work this thing. So let me see if I can do it. It's not. Oh, there she is.
Aw.
Can I introduce you to Caitlin Jordan? She turned 21 on Tuesday. So, when I was trying to think, how am I going to fill up 10 minutes, and I began to think about what I wanted to say, I could talk to you all night. But don't worry, I have no cards to keep me prompted. I found that it's very dangerous if I give myself free range of my mouth, that I say inappropriate things. I don't know if I'm more nervous about standing up here and speaking or having free range over there. So we'll find out. Okay. Sincerely, for you to take time, most of you probably work today, to come and be involved and listen to hear my story. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for giving Caitlin a voice, because tonight I'm her voice. I just want to share with you on a personal level of what bullying does to a family. And I have to tell you, I'm not a presenter. I am so glad for the job that you did and the education that you presented, but I just got to take it down a notch and talk with you. I just want to talk with you. So, if I can just, and then add to the education. I looked on Google to find out a definition of bullying that I wanted to relate to you. And the National Center Against Bullying says, when an individual or a group of people with more power repeatedly and intentionally cause hurt or harm to another person or group of people. And this is what I want you to focus on. Who feel helpless to respond. I'd like to ask you to interact with me just for a moment, and I know that Wendy started this out, but I'd like to go just a little step further. With that definition in mind, has anybody in here, could you be brave enough to raise your hand if you have ever experienced bullying as a child, as a teenager, as an adult? Okay, keep your hands raised for just 1 second, please. Has anybody in here had a son or a daughter that's been bullied? Keep your hands up if you've been bullied. We're going to talk about this. And then finally, has anyone had a loved one, someone that they cared about that has been bullied? Please raise your hand and keep them up a second, because we're going to be interactive. We're going to talk. Look around the room. Look around the room. How many people is it affecting? You can put your hands down now. But I wanted you to identify that this isn't just a per instance thing. We are all affected by this, so we really need to talk about this, don't we? If it's so pervasive, we need to talk about it. I've been told that bullying has always been around, and it's just something that every child has to learn to live with, deal with, and get over it. I would submit to you today that we know better now. We are educating ourselves. We know what it does to people. We know what it does to children when they become adults. We are accountable now to be better people, to be a better society, to be better parents, to be better teachers. What I've learned is that bullying is absolutely, in its rawest terms, physical and mental warfare. And every war demands its casualties. In this warfare, you will have some that are hurt and get on with it and get over it. But there will be others that are maimed and disfigured, and they will get on and they will live, but they will have those scars that they carry with them. And then finally, there are the fatalities. And I wish I could have taken the time to show you, as I read down the list, researching this, the 11, the 12, the 10, the 17-year-old that jumps off the bridge. Bullying has claimed them as their fatality. Just briefly, Caitlin's story. We're in the car. I pick her up from middle school, where the nightmare started. And she said she had a headache. So I asked her, well, why do you think you have a headache? And she said, I don't know. It's been hurting ever since Rachel took her books and hit me over the head. Not that I jumped to conclusions. I thought maybe they were goofing around. And it was brought out that Caitlin thought she was joking with her about being too short to reach a poster, and that upset Rachel, and she hit her over the head with the books. So I called the principal, and I didn't want to make a big deal about it. I just wanted it to be taken care of. They're 12 years old, they're learning, they're interacting. So the principal said he would take care of it. During that year, Rachel bit my daughter. She had her friends. In between classes, you go down the hallway with everybody else that's changing classes. And I like to call it hall hockey, because she would have her friends, as Caitlin would go to her classes, and you have a group of kids, bump her shoulder or push her out of the way or step on her. So that every terrorizing class change, she had to wonder, who's gonna come at me? Who's gonna hit me? What's gonna happen? For a stupid class change, there's terror and bullying. The worst part was whenever she was at the gym. The school's been made aware of this. They see me on a weekly basis. They want to call the police when I come in through the door. And they are absolutely educated on what's going on. And she was in the gym. The teacher left the children alone for about 20 minutes, and a group of girls started throwing a ball at her, and then they surrounded her and they slapped her face. That's assault. That physically assaulted my daughter. So I went to the principal several times, and I'll just bring up two things that I brought up to him that I hope will help create empathy and understanding for everybody here tonight. The first thing I said to him is he had preschool children that he took to daycare. I said to him, what if you had to be mandated to take your child to that daycare when you knew that while they were in the care of others, that they would be pinched and slapped and left to be in neglect, and possibly the caregivers were being awful to them? At the very least, they let it happen to them. How would you feel knowing that you had to get up in the morning and send your child to that daycare? I'm powerless in your school. You hold all of it. And then the second thing that I shared with him is, what if you had to work in a place like that? In a place where you were bullied and talked down to the point where you were physically afraid, where you were terrorized once you got out of the car, that someone was going to assault you, where you were always looking for the next person that's going to hurt you. Would you work in a situation like that? You have a choice. My daughter does not have a choice of the situation that she's in. I can't help her. I need your help. I never received any help from my child from bullying. So Caitlin's life. The frontal lobe of our brain is not fully developed until we're 25 years of age. Yes, there's a reason why we're stupid when we're young. That frontal lobe controls the emotional expression, problem solving, memory, judgment. Caitlin has been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. She suffers from severe panic attacks, suicidal ideations, fear of groups. You think that it ends when they're out of school. It doesn't. It goes further into their life, and it invades all their aspects, their social, their work. She tried to go to Penn State on Beaver campus, and there were many times where I would have to call her while she's in the middle of a panic attack because she doesn't know if this kid was looking at her weird or she thought this one was going to follow her to her car, and she was afraid in every social situation. My daughter skipped a grade in school. She was in the gifted program. I had high hopes and dreams that she would have every advantage. And through no actions of her own or mine, those were stolen. Now that we've just talked about the problem, I'm going to ask you to listen. And I hope I share this with you as something that you can take and say, I'm glad I came tonight. I'm glad that I took the time. Because I messed up. I was so focused on the problem and resolving the problem that I didn't listen to what was happening with my daughter. And I promise you, there are things that are happening with those that are bullied. Caitlin began to become an excessive sleeper. She's a teenager. She's tired. That was my thinking. No, she wasn't. She was escaping. She needed to get away from the pain so bad that the only thing that she could get peace from was sleeping, because every time she got on the phone or every time she got on the computer, something was coming at her, attacking her, trying her, being mean to her, hurting her. And let me tell you, emotional abuse will physically drain you. Her morning anxiety was off the charts. Moodiness. I thought it was hormonal. I thought she was a teenager. It wasn't. She was gearing herself up every morning, working herself up to make herself go to school because she was so afraid of what was going to happen that day. Could you imagine you and I having to do that every day that we got up and had to go to work? Having to make ourselves have enough courage to walk in there and face whatever was dealt with us that day. This is a 12-year-old little girl facing this. We need to make it real. We need to quit thinking of bullying as an adult and what will happen afterwards, because there's the terror of it right then and right there that they have no escape from. Crying herself to sleep at night, again, I thought maybe just a bad day, maybe teenager, maybe hormones. She was crying herself to sleep because she knew that when she woke up, she was going to have to face that terror. And there would be nobody there to help her, because even though the teachers stood in the doorway of the hall where they switched classes and would see her being shoved or pushed, nobody stood up for her. Nobody said, stop. I'm a nurse. I advocate for my patients. I would never let a child be treated the way mine was treated. Withdrawn, creating her own world. These are some signs and symptoms that you need to be listening to if you know someone that's being bullied, because it changes them. Again, that frontal lobe not developed till 25, and at 12 she starts hearing, you're stupid, you're ugly, we hate you, you're not worth being here, you don't belong here. And so as she's developing her life, that's how she develops it. I don't belong here, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, no wonder I can't do it. And that's what she lives with. And as her brain is developing and creating those functions, that's how she acts in her life now. That's why she has panic attacks. That's why she can't go and be around people. Because in her mind, that's what she's been trained. No matter what I said at home, no matter what I did at home, no matter how I tried to support her, she heard them over me. I wanted to do one last thing in summary, and I know that I've probably exceeded my time. You can gong me if you need to. I know you have those little red cards that say, please wrap this up.
I hold the power.
Okay.
Continue.
I want to make my case for you to find your place. You took the time to come here tonight. I hope that through this education that you have a new understanding, a new empathy of the critical awareness and the part that you can play to stop this. Now that you know, what will you do? If you're a teacher or you know a teacher, for God's sake, if you see something, say something. Don't let that happen. Don't be too tired. Don't think it's the parents' problem. Don't think it's a rite of passage that they'll get over it. It's affecting them. If you're a parent, confront, confront. There were so many things I didn't do. I tried to walk the democratic line of diplomacy and trying to create a sense of cooperation. It didn't work. I wish I would have called the police when she was physically assaulted. I wish I would have been as aggressive with this situation as those girls were aggressive with my daughter. And then if you're a loved one of someone that's being bullied, may I encourage you just to support them. Please start rewiring them. Tell them that they hold the power. Tell them that they are worth it. Tell them that you want them in your life. Speak good to them. Encourage them. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for giving my daughter, Caitlin, a voice I love very much. And thank you for your future actions of making a change.
Good luck trying to follow that. Right, Tam Hamill?
Really?
Representing the Westmoreland Intermediate Unit.
Correct.
I so enjoyed talking to you backstage about social media, about some of the ins and outs of this, so take it away, and then we'll do our little Q&A over here.
Sure. So it's obviously, we have a lot of work to do in our school culture, and it's very evident from your story. At Westmoreland IU, along with the other IUs across the state of Pennsylvania, we're service agencies to our schools. We provide the services and supports that our schools deem necessary at any given time. We've been around for 40 years, and only in the last couple of years have we been in the business of addressing this particular topic. So the question really becomes, why are we at this point? It's obvious we have some issues to deal with and some things that we have to change about our schools. So we need to educate. I heard that several times tonight. And that's precisely what we're working to do on our level. It's multi-pronged, it's multi-levels. It's at home, it's at school. Everybody's involved. It's a whole community of people that are associated with this issue. The one thing, though, that I've asked myself many times is, and we've heard it tonight, bullying's been around forever. We've all dealt with it. Why is it so pervasive now? Why does it seem so much more insidious today? And I would contend that one of the things that contributes to that is technology and the media that surrounds it, social media, the way we communicate today, the tools that we use to communicate with. All of these things amplify what has always been there, but they make it hurt more, they make it more intense for everybody who experiences it, and it's one of those things that's so new to us as a society. It's still Wild West out there. We don't know how to control it, we don't know what to do with it, we don't know how to behave with it, we don't know anything, but let's just say whatever we think right now. And it's easy to hide behind that technology. I want to show you a couple of quotes. There we go. From Melinda Gates. You might know her husband, a slightly well-known technology person, Bill. And I found these quotes and I thought, this is quite telling. That phones and apps aren't good or bad by themselves, but they exacerbate the difficulties of growing up. And this one hit me hard as a parent, because I've been involved in school and technology and worked pretty heavily in it over the years, and I identified with that. I spent a career in it, and that did not prepare me for parenting my children. I have 2 grown daughters now. I did a terrible job with this stuff. I am going to tell you, I don't think I could have done much worse. So why is that the case? Why, even with all the knowledge I had of technology, why didn't I make this situation better for my kids? So we're not prepared. We don't know how to do it. This generation that's parenting right now is among the first to have to deal with parenting and technology in this way. We've problems that we've never faced before. We have issues that are so different that nobody ever told us or taught us how to do it. We didn't grow up with parents teaching us how to handle these things. We didn't learn from our own parents. In fact, this probably, get to the move here. Does that look familiar to anybody? That was me growing up in my house. Communications out of my home growing up happened on the wall phone in the kitchen with the 20-foot cord stretched as far as you could make it go to get away from mom, who was doing the dishes right in the sink, listening to everything you said. There was no secretive communication. There was no discussion that happened after hours and that your parents didn't know about. So you fast forward to today, and that's the picture that we see as parents. What's going on there? It's silent. It's texting. It's communicating in a way that we don't hear and we don't see either. So what's a parent to do? I think that picture with the parent in the background, man, do I identify with that one. Because you just don't know. You see that worried look on her face, and it's because you don't know if they're talking to their friend, someone from across the country, somebody who's going to do them harm, a group of people who are doing them harm, or maybe she's the one doing the harm. We don't know. And it's really hard to sort that out from the parent perspective and to deal with that. So how do you manage that? How do you deal with it, and what tools are there to do to handle these things? Unfortunately, those tools have not been there, and it's been difficult. We're working on our end to try to identify some of those things and to help move some of this forward and to help the process along from our end, and perhaps do a little better job. There we go. And one of those tools that we found, I wanted to share it with you tonight because it's unique in addressing the issue. It's using technology to address an issue with technology in our society. Bark is a product that was developed for families to monitor social media. What's unique about it and what makes it so powerful is that it uses artificial intelligence to do that. And it's a lesser of an invasion of privacy for everybody involved, because it sort of protects some of what you want your kids to have in that environment, but it also protects and alerts the parent when it identifies that language that's determined to be bullying, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and it captures it and alerts the parent. This is the kind of thing that gives us a little bit of a safety net and makes us feel a little more comfortable as parents in this situation. I know I would have loved to have had this when I was parenting my own kids. They grew up before this came out. And had I had this, I know I could have avoided situations within my own family. So this is the work we do. This is the work that a service agency is trying to do on behalf of this particular issue. And we're working hard at it. It's something it's not an easy fix, and it's not something that we can fix alone. It is a community, cultural issue, and we have to do it through education. We have to do it through learning. We have to do it through helping our school districts change the way they deal with this particular issue. And trust me, they really want to. I don't think of the 17 school districts in Westmoreland County that we work with, there's not a one of them that will tell you that they don't have a bullying problem. I can tell you that 100% for sure. They don't quite know what the answer to fixing that is. So we'll see if we can get there, and we'll do our best to make that happen. Okay. Thank you.
Well done, thank you. There's water right here if you
Thanks.
need it. First of all, how's Caitlin?
Caitlin makes a choice every day to survive what she went through. Caitlin makes a choice every day to live. It is that difficult when you feel like you don't belong, when you feel like you're not wanted. So it's a daily thing, and it doesn't just stop with the child, it affects the whole family. There were many times when I would come home from work and I would have to think through, what will I do if I find something at home that I don't want to find? That's very real. It was very real to me. In addition, it affects the other family members. She has a sister, but I totally forgot what I was doing. So
You're fine. No, you're fine. At 21,
oh,
do you feel as though she's making progress?
okay. So here is the key that I have found for me, and what I was going to say is, there are many times where I would be in the parking garage and late to work because I would have to talk her down or talk her into going to school because she just couldn't face it. So when I started listening to the signs, we went therapy. And I had her in and out of therapy since she was 12, not really knowing what the problem was. But I began to educate myself on what was happening, the psychological part that was happening when you're bullied. And therapy for her has been so helpful. Does it get easier? No, I think as an adult, you carry what you've learned into you. It molds you. And it's hard to break out of that. It really is.
If you hand the mic over. So my kids went trick-or-treating on Halloween. My last 3 are still doing it. And so the thing at our house is after they go trick-or-treating, they go over to my mother-in-law's house, they and their friends, and there might be 15 of them. And my mother-in-law makes pizza and gives them soda, gets them all sugared up, but just to give them like that final, end of the night thing. And so I walk in the kitchen after handing out candy at my house down the street, and my son Ryan, who's going to be 13 tomorrow, is on his phone, and his 4 friends are all on their phones in the kitchen. And I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, we're texting each other. I was like, you're standing next to each other. Turn around. What are you doing? This is what we're up against.
It's like I said, it is an issue for us culturally. My daughter works at Disney World, and so I make a frequent trip there nowadays to visit. And one thing I've noticed that even families standing in Disney World enjoying this amazing, fun place are on their devices, and so it really is pervasive. It's everywhere, and we're coming into a more of a shell of ourselves. We're not openly communicating.
Right.
We had a symposium with students at Westmoreland IU just last year. And the students who were on that panel spoke to that very same thing. They said, we don't know how to communicate. They have one of the most powerful communication devices that's ever been on the planet in their hands. And they realize they don't know how to communicate. So it is a huge issue for us.
And so your role is to do what to help the rest of us?
So one thing we have to do is give people the opportunity to learn what to do. What are some good practices? What are great things we should be doing? Number one, parents, talk to your kids.
Right.
Communicate with them and talk about the problems and the issues. School yourself, research, understand what all those apps do. Don't just write it off and say, well, that's their generation and they do that, I don't do that. You need to understand it. If you're going to let your child have that powerful thing in their hand that can be very damaging, do the research, understand what you're holding there, and be able to talk to them about the dangers and what can truly happen and how to communicate correctly within that.
This has got to be the most challenging age to grow up in, wouldn't you say? I mean, I grew up in the 70s. I know I don't look that old, thank you. But, we played, right? We played. And if you didn't come home either bloody or dirty, you weren't working hard enough. That was the way it was. And it's a bear. This new age is a bear. And what I'm hearing from you is we have to be proactive for sure. But it's not just a mom thing. Take the mic. It's not just your daughter thing. It's an us thing. And you heard it from them. It's like we all have to have a role. And you're imploring us to take action, to do something. We all play a role in this.
So if I could just say something that's probably inappropriate.
Go for it.
Okay.
I know nothing about that sort of stuff.
I read the statistic up here that 75% of the school shootings that we are so desperate to stop, that we have spent years in Congress trying to get gun control. Nothing's happened. Congress can't decide. I frankly don't care whether you're pro-gun or if you're anti-gun. The problem isn't the gun. What, maybe 6 guns have been used to do all these killings? Let's start where we can start, where we can have an impact. We don't have to wait for our congressman. We can start tomorrow. We can start with you, we can start with you, we can start with myself. Let's stop the bullying. If 75% of these schools are being shootings are being attributed to bullying, why are we attacking the gun problem?
Right.
That can be later.
Right.
Let's attack the now problem where we have power. Let's empower ourselves, not give it to Congress.
Right.
So,
Amen, sister. Amen.
Yeah, right?
Thank you.
And I know one of the things I try to tell my sons is if you see someone being bullied and you're not jumping in to stop it, you're the same as the bully. You're allowing it to happen. You've got to get involved. It is your obligation to get involved.
But
and am I wrong? Is that the wrong message?
They will only
I mean-
learn that when they see us do it.
Right.
If they don't see an adult or a teacher get involved, if they hear that my youngest 18-year-old last week of school went down to the elementary grade, 6th grader. His dad was a disabled, wheelchair-bound, not Vietnam, he was a veteran, I'm not sure which war. His mom had died a year previously from a heroin overdose. They lived with his grandmother, and he was chubby. He was so proud to tell my daughter, who went down there for some function that she was doing, that he had lost 50 pounds, and he thought that that would make them quit making fun of him. And my daughter was horrified when, in front of the teacher, the kids were telling him that he was worthless and he should go kill himself. This 12-year-old little boy who lost his mother, who lost 50 pounds in the hope of getting acceptance, and with that acceptance, just simple acts of kindness, was being told to go kill himself and nobody intervened. And I could just say this too, if I can, since we're on the inappropriate run. We just experienced what happens to kids that are bullied. I'm just gonna go out on a limb here because I think the statistics prove it. They become people of my age and they still shoot people. We know that, we've experienced it last week. If we're not kind and decent to one another, we create this aggression of fighting back.
Tough time in society to be talking about fairness and love and kindness and respect, right? So, the biggest obstacle in your work, the biggest challenge.
I think it's one that we're beginning to overcome, and that is finding a consistent way to address the issue at hand. I'll share this. This is an upcoming piece that I think is very good news for Westmoreland County, and that is that we're beginning a countywide combined effort. It's called Step Up Westmoreland. It is a program designed specifically at mental health, bullying being one of those issues that are often connected to mental health issues. And we're addressing these concepts and issues as a whole for the first time. We've done it in silos. We've done it as individual school districts or maybe individual schools.
But not comprehensively.
Correct. And I think for the very first time, and I have to just put out a big shout out to the school districts of Westmoreland County the Westmoreland County Office of Behavioral Health and Development Services coming together with the intermediate unit and sitting down and scoping out what do we do. And that's happening, and it's about to kick off here in December as a true live initiative to address what we're talking about tonight, and to do it in an ongoing, constant manner that, you know, we have some consistency to it, and we deal with it together instead of trying to continually fight it within our own four walls.
Do you think the media will cover that?
I sure hope so. And, you know, we'll reach out as much as we can, make as much noise as we can about what we're doing, and hopefully make enough noise to be heard.
I think that's so where the narrative needs to be.
Great.
You know? To start talking about things that are good instead of everything that's so bad.
Absolutely.
Because there's so much good to talk about. Am I wrong? I mean, there's so much to talk about in that regard.
Absolutely.
Before I set you guys free, what do you think, how do you think your daughter is going to do? Do you think she's going to navigate these waters and grow up and be a mom herself who can do this with her children? Or do you believe that the road ahead is going to be tremendously rocky?
I absolutely believe the road ahead is going to be tremendously rocky. But she has a mother that loves her and will call her and support her and help her and dedicate everything I have. So she's been injured, she's been maimed, but she'll be okay.
I think you guys are absolutely dynamite. Does anybody have a question for either of them before I set them free?
When is the kickoff event for Step Up?
It's December 6th at the Westmoreland Intermediate Unit.
Thank you.
Yes.
If I want to attend, how do I go about attending?
Here, you need this.
Oh,
I like it.
so you can register through the Intermediate Unit online. We have an online registration. You can do this, though, through your home school district. All of our school districts are aware of this, so if you reach out to your superintendent's office at your own districts, you'll be able to get more information on how you can get involved.
I don't mean to sound stupid, but what's an intermediate unit?
We are Westmoreland Intermediate Unit, which is one of 29 intermediate units across the state of Pennsylvania. We are sort of an intermediary between the Department of Education and our school districts, and we provide services that our districts need to support what they do every day. And that's a wide, diverse range of services, and we all operate a little differently across the state. And each of us do what our particular regions feel most necessary in doing the daily work of school.
Love it. All right, if I can just say this, may we all maybe go to bed tonight with a prayer for Caitlin.
Thank you.
I know at my house we have a prayer list every night after the Latin Our Father, and you can rest assured that for a good while she'll be a part of our family's prayers.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you guys very much. I'll take that. Thank you so much. Powerful stuff there. That was worth it, right? All of this, so worth it. I would love to introduce to you the two true rock stars of the night. I love when children have a powerful message because they teach us so much, I think, in life. And I would love to ask Elizabeth Baer and Adam Hoffman to come up to the stage, and also Matthew Dugan. If you guys would come on up here. Come on, hello, hello. Don't be shy. I've already pre-interviewed all of you. Now, Matthew and Elizabeth, don't get too comfortable because I'm going to ask you guys to go first. I'm going to have you come up here, tell us a little bit about why bullying resonates with you and what you bring to this conversation. Don't be shy.
So, our school does a lot about bullying and preventing it, so I'm just here to talk about what our school does and how it affects students.
And I'm here to talk about a personal experience I have with how bullying can affect students' everyday life and how it can lead to bad aftermaths, and so I just wanted to share my personal experience with it and how horrible it is in everyday life. According to StompOutBullying.org, bullies might act out because of many reasons, such including they want attention, they want to feel more powerful than others, or they've been bullied before and want someone else to feel the same way. None of these reasons are legitimate, as no...
I'm just trying to interrupt you, sweetheart, sorry. I turned that off.
None of these examples are legitimate reasons to meaningfully discourage another peer, as no example can be. Examples of bullying include cyberbullying, which is becoming more and more popular, physical and verbal abuse. Bullies often start rumors and talk badly about the victim.
I don't know, but you're electric, sweetheart. That's all I'm gonna say. You've got something going on there that's magical.
I don't know what's going on.
Try it. Keep going. You're doing great.
Go ahead.
Even teasing between friends can have a negative impact on a student, for critical comments can get stuck in someone's head. Often the bully is emotionally damaged, although victims obviously get the worst of the outcomes.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with how bullying can affect a student. First of all, it can lead to depression, anxiety, changes in sleep and eating habits, health complaints. They can lose interest in activities they may have loved before. They could become a worse student in school, and mainly some acts of bullying result in suicide. So depression, it can result in, like I said, result in loss of interest in activities that they may have liked before. They could chronically feel sad. They could have trouble eating or sleeping as they find it's just a way to escape. They have their energy levels just drastically decrease. They have trouble focusing in school, which also leads to decreased academic activity. And like I said before, depression unfortunately can lead to suicide. Also including that, suicide and gun violence. From ages 10 to 34, suicide is the second leading cause of death, and for all ages, it is top 10 leading cause of death. According to Kingston General, in a survey of teens who experienced suicidal thoughts, 77% of those teens had reported that they had been bullied. Students who have been bullied may not be able to mentally, are not capable of dealing with the mental abuse or physical abuse, and may express their anger in violent ways, such as gun violence and school shootings. Students who are bullied are twice as likely to bring a gun to school. Students who are bullied may also have the use of guns outside of school as well. Now, Elizabeth Bear will tell a personal story about an act of bullying that resulted in a tragic
For example, on how bullying takes a toll on your physical, social, and mental health is a boy I knew as a child. Our moms were good friends, so we hung out kind of often, and he was a good kid, and his little brother was a sweet kid too, and he loved Thomas the Tank Engine. His mother tried to put the boy in a million different sports and activities, but he could never really find his spot. He liked Pokemon and his DS and going to Disney every year, but he never could really find his friend group. After a bit, our families separated and now can never be put together. For on November 30th, 2016, that boy, who was once a friend of my family's, shot his mother and brother. That boy's name is Jacob O'Malley. According to Trib Live, he has multiple personalities that take over at different times and, quote-unquote, was depressed and antisocial as a result. This disorder prevented him from making friends easily, as he was often excluded and teased for growing his hair out, which he did to donate for locks of love. Perhaps if someone stood up for him or became his friend, he would have done something different on that fall day. Perhaps, but we cannot know for sure because no one did, and that horrible, horrible thing happened. We all have the power to make a positive impact in someone's life. We need to embrace that power at all times and be kind to everyone. When I first found out about the Dumble homicide, my body froze. I was speechless, and it's like I couldn't process it. As soon as I got home, I wept with my family. Our entire town was devastated. Our entire district, county, state was devastated. Our little town made worldwide news. It was as if we were in a horror movie and everything was being played in our heads. Mrs. Romali worked at our school, West Hempfield. Jacob attended the high school, and the youngest, age 8, Caleb, attended Stanwood Elementary. Each school lost someone that day, but our entire nation took a hit. You never know what's going on in someone's life or how they're feeling. Little jokes can make all the difference. And why would you risk setting someone off by joking around when you could just be kind to them? Aesop once said, "No act of kindness is ever wasted." Our school takes great measures to teach its students about the effects of bullying and ways to stop it from occurring.
So before I go on to what our school does, like Elizabeth said, if someone would have stood out for him and spoke about him and stood up for him, that tragedy may have never happened. But what our school does is one simple way of keeping bullying from happening is the Dropbox, which literally means the digital reporting of problems. And it's an online service that you can log on through our school website and just submit your problem, whether it be bullying or if you see something, whatever it may be, you can report it. And one thing that really needs to be addressed in our school is that people take advantage of this and they use it as a joke, where really it's a very helpful resource for kids who are in trouble of being bullied and having thoughts of suicide.
Another resource our school has for our students is the SAP team. This is a group of teachers who are trained so they can help students whenever they have problems, either in school, out of school, wherever. The students can have conversations with that teacher so they can feel comfortable without having to worry about it being addressed or it being put off, and they can talk to the teacher, and the teacher will address them and focus on them for a bit. It's kind of like the guidance counselor, except with teachers, since most of our students don't make regular visits to the guidance counselor, but they see their teachers every single day, and they're more comfortable with them.
Another event that we use, and another thing that we use to prevent bullying and make bullying aware in our school, is advisory teams. And each student in our school is assigned to an advisory team / an advisory teacher. So what they basically do is we meet once a cycle. So just about once a week we meet in these groups, and we talk about bullying and how it can be prevented. And we're given situations of bullying, and we have to think about ourselves whether or not how we could avoid that situation, and what simple things we could do, just like being kind and being responsible for what you're doing can help someone greatly.
We also have the bully prevention assemblies and surveys. Every year, our school holds a bully prevention assembly where we talk about ways that we will change our school and how we can make differences. We also have regular assemblies to promote being kind to one another. During those assemblies, we have school spirit, and we talk about bonding within our peers, so we remember that no one is left out.
Also, we have, one more thing about the bully surveys. Once a year, at the end of the year, we have every student in the school take a survey about bullying, and those questions on that survey relate to, were you bullied during the year? If you were, when did it happen? Where did it happen? And those results basically allow the school to find out how we can prevent bullying from happening. and not only preventing it from happening, but seeing where we can help students with bullying. So if you find bullying happens in classrooms, then you might have people more aware of that happening in classrooms so that you could stand up for your peers and help them through what they're going through. But another thing we have is the Bully Team Committee, and it is similar to SAP, but they more focus on bullying itself. And so any student who has been bullied or is being bullied can come to these teachers in this group and just seek out for help and find out a way that they can get back to their normal lives without being tortured by students who think they're greater than them. So in conclusion, our schools, our families, and our community in general all need to stand together to stop this widespread epidemic. So stand up and speak out.
Very nice. All right, I'd like to introduce Adam. Don't you like how I don't even stand up anymore? Adam, it's not that I don't.
That's okay.
Adam Hoffman, senior at Latrobe Area High School, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
And just an all-out fantastic guy. I wish you were my son. You're a dog. Not to say anything about my kids, but I like you a little better. Sorry.
I didn't expect to feel old when I came up here. I have two 13-year-olds speaking in front of me. I didn't expect that today.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Take it away. It's
Well,
yours.
I'm not prepared at all, so we're gonna watch video first.
All right, good. Roll it. Are you in charge?
Maybe, I don't know.
Let's see.
Possibly. I just said we were watching the video, not listening to it. We'll listen to it separately. We'll get back. Yes.
We'll try it again. It's not a live presentation if that there's not a glitch.
Of course. As I said, I was not prepared, so that's why I had the video.
No, you're all good.
In my defense, it worked with practice.
If I play it on my phone.
Well, do you want to walk us through it and tell us what happens?
All right. I'm just gonna tell you what a venom is. So at our school, I'm just gonna go for how it started. Last year, I had a friend come up to me and he pointed out that we had 3 suicides in about 9 months. And statistically speaking, that is insane. That shows that there is something wrong with our school, something wrong with the culture. So we decided to make a club where we could talk about it, where we could figure out a solution. We first started out with this thing called Wildcat Wellness. No, I'm just kidding. We'll do that first. No, that's good.
What do I do with his empty desk? I actually came to my room over the weekend, and I just started staring at all the other desks sitting there, and then my eyes focused on Phil's empty desk. And I was saying to myself, what am I going to do, knowing that when we return to school on Monday, all those... What do I do with his empty desk? I actually came to my room over the weekend, and I just started staring at all the other desks sitting there, and then my eyes focused on Phil's empty desk. And I was saying to myself, what am I going to do, knowing that when we return to school on Monday, all those students are going to be filing in. We're going to move the desk, we're going to keep it there. I had no clue. And it was the first of many things that we didn't know what to do. So we decided to leave it up to the students.
When Phil had passed away, it was something new, something different, and something terrifying.
Nobody knew how to react. Not the kids, not the teachers, not the administrations.
You kind of want to know if everybody else is feeling the same way, or if you're all by yourself. We didn't know what to think, how to feel, if we could talk about it, if we were allowed to talk about it.
The kids were suffering, the teachers were suffering, and I was mad because nobody was doing anything.
I guess we decided that we couldn't stay quiet anymore. We needed to get it out, we needed to talk.
They wanted to bring it up, they wanted to talk about these issues. They refused just to sit silently. So we took action. Once we started, the adults started listening to what the students started to say and what the students needed to do, this thing just blossomed incredibly so.
We wanted to make a club and we needed something that would stick with people and something that was meaningful.
From the Latin word vid, to see, live, life, comes a new word and a new club at school, creating a culture of compassion and empowering teens to make a difference. Avita, I got your back. Avita, we got your back.
And I can remember specifically the students saying, will anybody really listen to what we're doing? They started listening. We went to other schools, we went to Harrisburg, the news started covering us.
They came up with a word, avita. They made it up from Latin roots, and it means I've got your back. And so kids can wear that shirt and can point to others and say, hey, we support you on this.
More and more people started listening. More of the adults started getting involved. More of the experts started lending their advice to us.
It didn't take me more than a few minutes to realize that something very, very special is going on here.
What I loved about Avita, after spending most of my career working for and looking out for at-risk youth, is that this was a tremendous groundswell of support coming from the kids themselves.
So this is an organization that is doing great work. There's no BS. It's sincere. It's true.
And this in turn is going to save so many more students, so many more kids.
I want to take it from the top, my friend. Yeah. From the top. Very nice.
As a child to write a song, to create some sort of picture or any type of artwork.
And they took it in their hands, they created something that's incredibly beautiful.
Yes, it's an important lesson, but this is a student who wrote a song or a student who created a poster. And the second we put their young voices and their young talents and lifted it up, it ignited because it is authentic.
So why is it growing so rapidly? I think that's it. It's sincere, it's natural, it's the right thing to do, it's saving lives.
They came up with this. They saw the need and said, we have to do something about this. We cannot allow this to happen again.
It's been really great to be able to talk about it, to know that even though I lost my brother, that his legacy lives on.
We authentically listen and believe in the children, and we authentically use what they create to get that message out.
It's something bigger than we ever thought it would be.
I believe Vita is going to be in every country in the world someday.
Avita didn't come from a principal. It didn't come from a superintendent. It didn't come from a textbook.
Even when we're faced with the deepest and darkest tragedies, there's always learning, there's always something good that can come with it.
It came from two kids standing in a hallway talking to a teacher about how we were going to help save the world.
And I think that my hope is that everyone knows the word, but more importantly, that everyone knows that someone cares about them.
No more empty desks. You know, it's very simple. It's almost cliche, but authentic.
Avita, I've got your back.
Excellent job yesterday.
That was worth waiting for.
Yeah. As I was saying, is we started Wildcat Wellness. Wildcat Wellness was very similar to Avitum, however, it didn't have the official title. We didn't know about Avitum at that point. We just knew that something had to be done. Then, as the year went on, we decided that Avitum would be a great place for us to go. It's something with a good curriculum that was set, and we could build on that. We could go to other schools and teach that. I'm going to talk about feelings for a second. And I'm not a touchy-feely kind of person, for the most part, but it's important to bring this up. Every time you have a feeling, sad or happy, whatever it is, it's the exact same thing if you stub your toe. It's pain. You feel whatever the reaction is. And it's simply just a stimulus response. You feel the way you feel because something happened. And once you realize what happened, what triggered that feeling, you can then move on and you can figure out, how should I live my life? How should I figure out something to do, some way that makes sense? Now, the biggest and most important part as an adult, I'm speaking to adults because that's the audience. You guys need to listen. Now, I have a very large issue. When people tell me a problem, I am a dog with a biscuit on my nose. That means that I want to solve the problem right away. I want to get it done right now. Just let me know. Let go right now. That doesn't always work. It's important for you just to listen and understand what is happening. Be someone that they can come to, that they can talk to. You don't need to solve the problem for them. You just need to give them a motivation to figure out how to solve the problem for themselves. Now, a little plug-in for Vetum. If you guys want it at your school, you come talk to me after. Maybe we'll make it work. Just gonna put it out there. Thank you very much.
Sit down. All right, I'm going to start with you since you put it out there. I at first didn't understand where you were going with the needing to solve a problem, and I think that's something that's so hard for us, right? It's like there's nothing worse than seeing your child suffer, and you want to solve the problem. So what you're advising us, parents and grandparents, to do is to be available and listen.
Yes, ma'am.
You can expand on that by putting that up there. Go ahead.
Sorry.
You're
So
good.
I think it's important to realize that you can't solve every problem, and you shouldn't solve every problem. You need to give us the opportunity to figure out things for ourselves so we can grow as a person, and then later in life when we need to take care of those problems solely by ourselves, that we can. We know how to do it, we know how to cope, we know how to make things work.
Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
It's all right. You can hand that over. So I'm intrigued by you two as well. What school?
West Hempfield Middle School.
West Hempfield Middle School. So both 13?
Yes.
Tough times to be a kid? It's okay? You're okay? Hold it up.
Middle school's a hard time for everybody, but I mean, it's gotten better through the years, for
Right.
me at least. I mean, 6th grade was the hardest
Ugh.
time for me.
Worst.
Just because there's new kids and like new experiences. But as I found my friend group through the years, it's been better.
Have you witnessed bullying or have you been bullied?
Yeah. Mainly the first one, because I try to surround myself with positive people, so it doesn't really happen to me as much, but all the time on bus, in classrooms, it's really everywhere. Like, even if it's not bullying per se, it's teasing, it's name calling, it's like,
Things that seem small that can add up, which is what you were saying. That things that seem innocuous enough but can hurt, right?
exactly. Little things can get in our minds, and that is what like hurts us in the end. I mean, big things of course too, but little things are repetitive sometimes, and they just keep happening and happening, and it gets annoying, and it gets kind of, you want to be over it, but it's something, it just keeps like gnawing in the back of your head, like, what the heck, guys?
Right. All right, hand it over. Now, you seem like you take a pretty big role in your school's anti-bullying efforts, yes?
Yeah, you could say that.
Why did you feel the need to get involved? Because you know what, quite frankly, as a 13-year-old, it's very easy to kind of blend into the shadows and not stand out. It takes a special person to put their foot down and be like, this is something I'm passionate about.
Well, the thing is with bullying is that it's too important to just let go. I witness, and a lot of my friends witness bullying every single day, and it hurts, not like it hurts me even when I'm not involved in it.
I mean, I see your face right now, right? I mean, I know. I would kiss you, but it would be weird. I'm okay with that. You might not be. But I mean, for you to feel that way right here, right now, in front of a bunch of strangers, it hurts, right? So do you feel as though you are able to talk to your parents and you have good communication?
Yeah.
Do you think that matters more than anything?
I think home life is one of the most important things when people are bullied. Like, when you trace back why people bully, it's sometimes, most of the time, they get it from home. So with me being in a good environment at home, I know what's wrong and what's right.
And so you could say without a doubt rather, that people you know who are bullied might not have the safest environment to go home to, mentally. All right, hand it over to you.
I didn't do it.
I know you didn't, but you agree that having a good relationship with your parents is helpful?
Yes, I do, and I love my mother.
I know.
So put it out there, she's there.
I love her too. She's got a sassy haircut. I'm envying that.
She's just sassy in general.
She's awesome. Does it get any easier the older you get? I'm assuming you're what, 17?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you've got them by 4 years.
That's right.
Does it get better? Does growing up get better?
I would say it definitely does, because at that point, I've had those chances to figure out what I need to do and how to cope with the situations. I've learned. When I was younger, actually, I'm going to tell you the only bullying story where you're going to laugh at the end of it. I was in elementary school, and I was being bullied by the most unlikely person you could possibly think of, a teacher. And I was a roly-poly. I was shaped like a bowling ball. That's how it was. And she did not let me forget it. And she told me that almost on a daily basis. And what am I going to say? Tell the teacher, I'm going to look at her and be like, hey, you're bullying me, knock it off. What's going to happen? So my response was, I smiled as broadly as I could, and I stared her down every class till the end of the year. And she didn't look at me, she didn't call on me, she didn't do anything, because she was just freaked out by my smile. And honestly, I think that was one thing that it made me empathize with people that later I see, oh my gosh, this person's dealing with some of the same things. They're dealing with whatever kind of shame it is, whatever they're feeling, whatever people are telling them. I can see how that happens. And also, I got better at smiling. Kind of hurt my cheeks.
Right? Sometimes it happens. You're like, ow, that hurts. It's a better alternative. I'd love to ask any of you out there, I mean, we have like raw meat here that we can get on here. We'd be like, we've got great knowledge, right? So do any of you have questions of today's youth? Yes, ma'am.
I should disclose, Adam is part of my school district, but I want him to talk about some of the little things, very briefly, that VEDM does to promote inclusion and friendship and awareness. Everybody else has 2 or 3 little things the club's doing or has done.
All right, so immediately, one of our first big launching things that we did was we got a 40-foot poster, and you would put your hand in some paint, and you got to put your handprint on this big poster that says, I got your back. Because if you looked at a VEDM, that was the handprint was the thing. That was their slogan, that was their signal. And that was the first thing that everyone saw. Admittedly, kind of confusing in certain cases, but everyone would come up and they talk to us. They'd be like, hey, yeah, I want to finger paint. High school's stressful. I'll come over and talk to you guys about it. Then we would just be out there. Last year we had therapists come and they went to all the homerooms over like 2 or 3 days. And they talked about mental wellness and they talked about how to cope with things. And then most recently, actually, I think, was it this week that we did this week, I can't believe I forgot this. Our 11th and 12th graders came in in our auditorium, and I was down there and I was doing the exact same thing I'm doing right now, except it was with my peers and it was 600 of them.
What?
Yeah, that was an interesting experience. First 2 words I said, I screwed up. It's good to go. But so we then got to explain what a VEDM was. We got to show them that video. We got to explain the 4 pillars of a VEDM. These are the 4 unifying factors of a VEDM. And
which are?
See, now you gotta do this speak. All right, I always forget one of them. Acceptance, acknowledge, see now I forget 2. Look what you did.
There's 3 A's and a C.
Oh, care for. Care for is one of them. But the A, that's the one I forgot in the... Acknowledge.
I didn't Google yet, man. I got your back.
I was going to say awesome, but that was good. It was good.
But yeah, I did the exact same thing that I just did. In front
No,
of
it's
all
all
of you.
good. But it's got to feel good that you're doing something to get the conversation started. Because the solution is with you guys, right? Don't you agree? Hand it over. Don't try to be shy. The solution is with you. Don't you agree that it's up to you guys to change your generation or to at least make it better?
I mean, like,
Up here.
we are the future. I mean, we gotta keep telling ourselves that. But it's hard because sometimes we kind of feel powerless, that we're not heard. And I mean, it's hard to make a change whenever you're scared of, like, telling what's wrong.
No, and that, I think that's brilliant. That makes perfect sense. And any adult would agree with you. That's not a child perspective. That's a real perspective. And I find that if you ever are trying to affect a change, that the best way to go about it is to be passionate and to stick to it, right? What do you want to be when you grow up?
I'm not sure.
Mom knows.
Hey, she's honest.
I'm not sure because, like, I don't really know what's out there yet.
Of course, you're 13.
Because, like, I don't really have a lot of life experiences yet.
They're brilliant. I mean, these kids, this is the thing. Like, children are brilliant. We're so used to not treating them as being brilliant, and they are so dang smart. You really are. Who else has a question for these awesome kids? Anybody? I mean, yes, sir.
Adam, what kind of change have you experienced with your peers in the short time you've been doing a VEDM in your school? Can you feel it? Can you see it happening?
Well, I don't know about the correlation of this, but I will say that we have not had a suicide since we started the VEDM. Putting that out there. I would also say that the whole goal of VEDM is having an open atmosphere where people can walk down the hallway, they get a wave, they get a smile, they see friendly faces. And I do think our school is pretty welcoming to begin with, but I think that there has been a definite change. People, they know that they can talk to everybody. It's a good place to go to school. That's the goal.
Wouldn't you have loved that? Right? It sounds like you're onto something. It's very hopeful. I think this has been wonderful. I hope you guys have gotten something out of this, right? I mean, I sure have. Anytime I get to talk to people who are certainly more educated than I in a number of various topics, we learn something. But this is a brilliant way to end it because you are the future and it changes with you. And I love that you're so passionate and emotional about it. Don't ever lose that about yourself. Ever, ever, ever lose that. It makes you magic. Never forget that. Bill, you want to say something?
Yeah.
Because this has just been awesome.
Yeah, I just want to thank Wendy tonight for such a great job. And I think she's perfect for this. Am I not right? I mean, it's unbelievable. And all the speakers were fantastic. And you are the future. And I have to say that as a couple of generations ahead of you, I stand here feeling really good about my kids at 12 years old following the footsteps.
Amen.
of you guys.
Amen.
All right, because you're setting an example, you're making changes in these schools, and kids like mine who are younger than you, and kids like maybe some of you have out here that are younger than you guys, are going to benefit from the differences that you're making every day. So don't ever think for a second that you're the weakest among your generation. You're the strongest, and you're really something else.
Yes. Amen.
I mean, looking at these parents over here, look how proud they all are. They're all crying. This is pride. This is
I know,
not
right?
sadness. This is pride.
You think we're weird, but we just love.
Yeah.
There's a difference. Weird, love.
Yes. So thank you so much for being. I know it takes a lot of courage to be up here, and you did a wonderful job. Thank you everybody for attending tonight. I know it's been a roller coaster ride of emotions. I think one of the hardest things when you hear some of these topics like this, and last year with the drug epidemic, is it's such a big issue that you almost feel a little powerless. Like, how can we make a difference when it's such a big thing and it's hurting so many people? It's almost like too big to even tackle. But you fix something, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. One instance at a time, one person at a time, we can make a change. And I think if you leave here tonight feeling a little empowered, maybe a little bit emotional from what you've heard from some of these stories tonight, maybe change the way you address an issue, either with a friend or one of your children, or if you're a teacher or a student, you're already making a difference. So one little bit at a time, that's how anything has ever changed, is a little bit at a time. And that's what the initiative is here tonight. So thank you again for attending. Thank you all, thank the speakers, and have a safe trip home. And if you're not following Goal Magazine and you're not subscribed to Goal Magazine, please subscribe. Follow what we're doing, because we're doing stuff not for the benefit of a financial gain, but for the benefit of our communities. And if you're a part of our community, you can benefit. So help us help you. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Billy. You guys are
Pressuring.
No, really? Did you feel pressure?
Yeah.